So you breed Salukis.
Yep, yep. I've been in the breed since 2011.
Nice. Can you tell us a little bit about the breed and how you got into breeding them?
Yeah, so I got into breed in 2011, and it's not easy to get into Salukis. If you hear people talk about this, it's like a super closed community to get into it. And I think I emailed breeders for probably about a year before I finally got a response. And this is pretty typical of people getting into the breed. They have a lot of difficulty finding someone who will even just message them back. And finally, I did. I found someone through the breeder referral at that time. At that time, they had made it public. And I contacted them, and to really try to sell myself, I expressed an interest in showing. I wasn't really sure if I wanted to get into showing, but at this point, I was like pretty desperate to get a Saluki. I wanted one, and I expressed interest that way, and then I drove 8 hours to the national specialty to go and pick up the puppy.
Nice.
um, but as far as the breed goes, they're a primitive hunting hound. They aren't for everyone, but they're kind of cat-like, I would say. Moderate energy. They need somewhere to run, much like other sighthounds.
And so are they related to other sight hounds like Afghans?
The closest cousin to them is probably the Afghan hound.
Okay.
There are some other like unrecognized breeds that they probably share some relation to, like maybe the Tazi. But other breeds like the Slugi and Azawak, they actually aren't that genetically related to. I think it's just a similar environment that kind of shaped all of these breeds. But you'll see breeds all along the Silk Road coming from Morocco with like the Slugi all the way up to China, very similar build of dogs, probably because they traveled the Silk Road, but they're not that related.
Okay, cool. So you said you got into the breed in 2011, and like how long have you actually been breeding them?
I didn't breed them until 2019. So I spent 7 years in the breed. I had two male dogs first. My first male dog was called Amir, and I finished his championship. And then I got a second male dog about 2 years later from Canada, Susie Canopa. And I specialed him. I got his grand. We got very close to his bronze. I didn't quite get there. And then I met a breeder mentor of mine from Virginia. Well, I met her sometime earlier than this, Bev Griffith. There were some like things that got into the way of me breeding. I actually had leased a bitch prior to when I actually bred her. I drove down to Florida. I'm located in North Carolina. I drove down to Florida and I was like, can I lease her? And they agreed to it. So I went and I took her to shows and to health testing. And unfortunately, she failed her health test. I took her for her eyes and she was fine. And then I took her for an echocardiogram and she failed that. Um, so I returned her and I didn't breed her. And then I told my future co-breeder at that time, who's Beverly Griffith of Saria Salukis, and um, she offered me a bitch of hers to lease, who was health tested, and that's when I bred her to my second male, who was a special.
Okay. So do you know how many litters you've had since you started?
I've had three at my house, so
Okay.
not all that many.
Okay.
Um, and then I've co-bred two litters, so they weren't born at my house. That doesn't really count, I don't think. They were born at my co-breeder's house, Beverly Griffith, who I co-breed the most with. So I had one litter in 2019. My next one was in 2022, and then I had one in late 2023.
Okay, cool. And you said that they're kind of like cat-like and they have like moderate energy. Like, can you tell me a little bit more about their temperament? Like, are they, so they're not like super like friendly, they're just a little bit more
Yeah,
reserved?
you will find temperaments kind of all over the board in the Saluki breed. I think because we have a pretty wide genetic basis. And in fact, we actually have an open stud book. So we're still importing dogs from Middle East. Like more of the recent dogs have come from Iran, maybe not now, but more recently. But there are like populations of Salukis that are not all that related to each other. So you'll find anything that is from like shy, which is not great, to like overtly friendly. But most of them fall somewhere in between of like an aloof, somewhere around their spectrum, I would say. They are very friendly with like their inner circle. They're just not terribly stranger friendly. And when I say moderate energy, like the dogs like to run around, and young dogs are kind of a pain because they'll run a lot, but they like to run around and then they relax for the rest of the day. My young dogs do run for a couple of hours with each other, but they're not terribly demanding on like people. They just kind of like go out and run by themselves and come back in for the most part. Although I do play frisbee with some of them and stuff like that.
Yeah. And what does that mean, an open stud book?
So Salukis currently have a process, and we were actually the flagship breed for this. where we can incorporate dogs with essentially no pedigree. That would be a generation zero dog. So if we brought a dog from one of the countries of origin, and that includes dogs anywhere from Egypt to Iran, like pretty big span, that would be a Gen Zero dog, and then we register them with the Desert Bred Society. I'd have to get, hold on, it's like a Society for the Perpetuation of Desert Bred Salukis. It's rather long. They'd be registered in that stud book after a 3-person critique as a Gen Zero. And then you breed that dog. It can either be bred to another Gen Zero, Gen 1, Gen 2 dog, or it can be bred to an AKC Saluki dog, and you'd move down to Gen 1, Gen 2, Gen 3. Each one of these generations has critiques by 3 Saluki experts. And on the 3rd generation, if they determine that they look like Salukis, they enter the AKC stud book.
Okay, I'm sorry. You just like broke my brain. So, so basically, you're saying like almost like how we talk about like human immigrants, like when somebody comes over here from another country, that's like a first generation.
Yeah, so the person who's immigrating from, or the dog that's immigrating from whatever country, is a Gen Zero.
Okay.
And then so their offspring would be generation 1 and 2, and then 3 is your AKC stud book dog, assuming that they all pass the evaluation, and they have to evaluate the entire litter together, so they all have to pass.
Okay, so the open stud book means that there's still like a lot of availability for studs.
For any dog, I mean, you can bring in a male or a female. So we're not necessarily like doing breedings there, but importing dogs from these countries to add new genetic diversity.
Okay. You mentioned the health testing. What kinds of health issues do they face?
So Salukis are actually a relatively healthy breed. I just did a survey of our breed. So I'm actually the health and genetics chair for Saluki Club of America. And I did a recent survey and I collected data on that. And I would say that like the most common testable problem, and this has been pretty consistent, has been heart problems. So echocardiograms have been pretty standard in the breed for probably about 15 years or so. And you can find this survey, it's on OFA. If you go to browse by breed Saluki and click on the health data. Now it's kind of like, it's a funky site. It's not great, but you can go through there and you'll see that the most common thing that's going to pop up is heart problems. And these things don't usually pop up right away in Salukis. They kind of have to, like they tend to be problems that happen with age. So the biggest thing that we do in Salukis that is a little bit different than other breeds, we breed them later in life. So you aren't going to see like a lot of 2-year-olds bred to 2-year-olds in Salukis. I think breeding younger than like 3 is really uncommon. Personally, I've set my limit for 4. Like I no longer breed any female dog that is below the age of 4. Stud dogs, I might make an exception for, especially if it's an older dam. For example, my second litter with Jubilee, she was 8, and we did breed her to a young stud dog. But it was kind of like a last ditch thing. But by breeding them later, I think that we have been able to keep the breed healthy because a lot of the issues that do pop up in Salukis just tend to be soft tissue issues or things that don't pop up right at 2. For example, one of the other problems that tended to pop up, like 15%, was some form of allergy, which you just don't see in 2-year-old dogs. But overall, it's a pretty healthy breed. I would say that the median lifespan is probably 12. And you still have a good number that are living to 14 years old, and then the bell curve kind of drops off after that.
And then getting into your dogs, I think you have 5 females and 1 male. Is that right?
So let's see. I have Faza Spade.
Yeah.
So she's really just like a pet right now.
Yeah.
She has a Spade as well. She had 1 litter and that was it. So we have 3 females who I would consider active, and then I have 1 male. Yes.
And with Faza, I saw that you did her thyroid and DNA tests. Did she fail that? Is that why you spayed her? Or
no, she actually didn't fail it. She had pretty severe allergies. She started having anaphylactic reactions. And so we did immunotherapy with her.
Oh.
And she actually passed her heart test. I just never put it in.
Yeah.
Because we knew we weren't going to breed her anyway. So she's
right.
just upset. And we still do stuff with her, but
yeah. Gotcha. I see that you have a possible breeding that's current. Is somebody possibly pregnant?
Yeah. So we have Melody. She actually does not belong to me. It's just like it. I sent frozen semen last year to breed to her, and it only produced 1 puppy. And the breeder wanted a feathered girl, and I wanted a smooth, and she got the smooth girl and kept her. So that was supposed to be her last breeding. She had done like 30 or 40 years of breeding and she was done. And so she offered me the opportunity to take her and breed her again, which I did. And we confirmed today that she is pregnant.
Oh, congratulations. You mentioned feathered and smooth while we're there. So how does that happen? Is it just like a recessive gene or something that they?
So feathered is actually the recessive.
Okay.
And so because we are in the United States in the Western world, we've really bred them to be feathered, hairy dogs. Honestly, in the Middle East, you find more smooth dogs. In most cases, the smooth lines that are in the United States were actually come from mutations. This one is actually a little bit different because we can trace her lineage back, her smooth gene, to a desert bred that was imported. But it's just one dominant gene. And because she only has one copy, it should be, statistically 50-50. But you never know.
Okay, and like as far as showing and everything going, do they have a preference, the judges, of if they're smooth or feathered, or it doesn't matter?
Yeah, it's actually really hard to finish this smooth.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be.
Yeah.
But chances are I would generally be taking the smooth the specialty shows, which is what I prefer anyways. I already have like a bunch of party colors, and that tends to be the case there too. It's hard to finish a party color in all breeds sometimes. It really just depends on the judge, but it was not like preferred color. It doesn't really matter, but judges' preferences.
Yeah. You mentioned Jubilee, and then I see Najib. Am I saying that wrong?
Najib, yes.
Najib. Najib. Okay, so those were your past dogs. Do you not have them anymore? Were they like?
So Jubilee was actually my co-breeder's dog. That was the one that I eventually got to lease because remember the first one failed her health test from someone else, and so I was offered this one because I was talking through with that breeder that I wasn't doing this breeding because the health test failed, and so she offered me this dog. Jubilee is still alive. She's 12 years old. She's in the archives, and she had a recent health test. I don't know if they put in the last one. They actually have really extensive health testing on her. Um, I have to look. But she had her last heart test at like 10. And there were some age related changes, but it was good. Najib was kind of a tragic story because he actually died of a toxin. And we don't exactly know what happened. I do have the necropsy result. And like a top differential was grapes. And I do have muscadine grapes in my woods. And so we think that it was that. And I can prove that to anyone who questions it. But it was like something within the gut like indicated that that was what happened. He basically died of acute kidney failure. But he was healthy until that point, and there was nothing like breed related or anything like that.
Yeah. How old was he?
I was 6, unfortunately. But his sisters, one just died at 12. She actually she had an accident in the yard. It's crazy. And the other one's still alive. The ones that the breeder had. So still a good number of them that are alive at 12.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry about that. And yeah, I saw that she fell and broke her foot or something. One of your dogs.
Oh, wait, which one? Which are you talking about?
Uh-huh.
Folklore.
Oh yeah. Is that not?
Oh
Is
yeah,
that
that
someone
had a
else?
special career. Yeah, so she like fell on the stairs,
Oh, okay.
and had an orthopedic surgery. And I've entered her in a couple of shows, and then like she'd come up lame, and I withdrew her. So she's okay, like as far as being a pet right now. But I think I need to take her to some PT to get her into like sound, like as sound as she was before. She just does something like where she like twists her hawk when she moves away from you now. And so she's like 7 points from her grand. I don't know if we'll ever get it. It's not like a big priority to me, honestly. Like I
Yeah.
have, she wasn't my best special anyways. Like she didn't really love the show ring. But that is why she doesn't have a grand.
God.
Someone was asking if I was still pursuing being a judge. I am still pursuing being a judge. I have had 3 sweepstakes assignments, so I am officially ready. I just haven't bred enough litters. Is actually the thing. I have to have 5 litters in my house.
Nice. I saw that Jazz was the first in the whole breed to ever get a chick number. So congratulations on that. That's really cool.
Yeah, I was kind of cheating because like I made the CHIC program. So
Yeah, I saw that too. But I mean, still, like, congratulations on that, because like that's a huge accomplishment, I think.
yeah, I always because I try to like if I'm talking the talk, I walk the walk. So all of my dogs get chicks before they go. It is like it's still kind of transitional right now because it is so new. So I wouldn't judge a Saluki breeder necessarily for not having everything listed yet. It's just not there yet. And I do think it's kind of in a transitional period where there are some tests that are a little bit more controversial than others. It was, a committee that made it go there. There like one health test, like the genetic health test, some breeders don't want to do. And I kind of get it because it's recessive. I do it, like I said, I do it. If they have their parents done, I get why you wouldn't do the next generation. I didn't necessarily agree with that one being there.
So you said in one of your videos that folklore is 4 and has only come into heat one time. Is that like normal?
She's actually the latest one that I've had do that. It's not like super uncommon though. Um, Almost all of my dogs have been over 2 when they've come in season the first time. And so Folklore waited an exceptionally long time. So she was 3. Her sister was 2.5 when she came in. She just had a second cycle. And so her sister is actually getting bred on this cycle. So that's great. I'm looking forward to seeing those puppies. Not my breeding, but I'm looking forward to seeing those. But I think because they are such like athletic and they're in the larger size, very just slow maturing. That's pretty typical. There's nothing like wrong with them as far as their hormones or anything like that. Trinket just came in for the first time. She's actually just finished up her cycle, and she was born in late 2023.
Gotcha. That's so interesting.
Yeah,
But it
it's
makes
not all lines,
like,
but it's not too atypical.
it's like how human like gymnasts like don't get their period.
Yeah. Which, you know, I really don't mind when they don't come in that fast because it's not like
Yeah.
I'm trying to breed them like, you know, right at 2 or anything like that. I really would prefer them to have fewer cycles because every time a dog has a cycle, it damages the uterus. So it's better if they just don't have that many before.
Right. When you do have a litter, how do you evaluate the litter and choose who to keep?
So the last litter, we were bad at this because we kept like 3 of them for a long time. So I have a kennel partner. It's just, not just me. So it's not just me having 3 puppies in my house or anything like that. And there's a whole separate household for that. So we do rotate puppies. I do like to hold on to them for a little bit though. We have our keepers and we hold on to them. Like we try to keep 2. And hold on to them for a couple of extra weeks because I feel like some flaws, like movement flaws, tend to show up a little bit later. I don't necessarily feel the most confident at looking at puppies, but at 8 weeks is when we do like formal evaluations to stack them up and take photos. I usually do videos at this point and kind of see like where we're at here. But I feel like the movement flaws like show up a little bit later. They just become like more obvious later on. I also do temperament testing at 7 weeks. I can't say it's like a perfect thing, but I actually really like hearing what the trainer has to say about the puppies because honestly, like that has been a lot more true than like the numbers that I mark down or that they mark down. Someone asked, do I do coursing? I do coursing. Trinket is a dual champion, but almost all my dogs have tried it.
What's coursing?
They're lure coursing.
Oh, okay.
So like there's sighthound lure coursing. I know that you probably have heard about cats or fast cats, but the
Mhm.
original was sighthound lure coursing. And so they can actually earn a field championship by doing this. They do have to run with other dogs at the same time. So it's different than a cat. It means they can't interfere. And it's scored by like follow and speed. And it's a little bit different than like cats, not timed. It's whoever runs the best. And it's kind of like a confirmation system where they have to get majors and 15 points in order to get this field championship. So whoever gets like best of breed gets whatever points were available within the breed, and then you can run for best in field against all the other sighthounds or the breed winners of each one of the sighthounds, and get a major for best in field if you happen to win that. So it's a lot like your like best in show.
That's really cool.
Yeah. It's fun.
You had mentioned temperament testing. What kind of stuff do you do for socialization as puppies?
So like overall, I follow the avid dog thing. I just kind of follow that week by week. But once they get a little bit older, my kennel partner actually works in a grooming salon. So it's a private grooming salon. So sometimes they rotate there. So they get like weekly baths and nails from a certain point forward. We take them to our local beer and wine shop. We like rotate them in and out there. And so they get pet by lots of different people. And we split up the litter a lot and rotate. So they get 2 different environments. And if we do happen to hold on to puppies for a little bit longer, I usually ask people that are around me, like local dog people, to take puppies for a week or 2 so they get used to different environments. But my kennel partner also has like chickens and cats and quail and things like that to expose them to different things. And you know, I'm a member of my local kennel club too, so sometimes I reach out to them to take a puppy for a little while as well. I try to get them out and individual as much as possible. I think that Saluki socialization is so vitally important because they are a primitive breed and they aren't necessarily going to love everyone.
What age do you usually send them to their new home if you're not going to keep them?
So the youngest that I'll send them home at this point is 10 weeks old.
Okay.
I have done litters earlier than that, but 10 weeks is kind of like my minimum now. I think that gives me extra time because I've historically started running blood work on them, and I'd like for that to come back first before I like promise anyone a specific puppy. I want to go through the health check before people have like packed their bags and are coming back through and their 8-week checkups. And some of these puppies in my next litter, I might hold on for 12 weeks. It just depends on what I get.
What is the breed standard?
It's a really quick read.
Okay.
So it's about half a page. And I believe it is the oldest hound standard in AKC. It was submitted by the Saluki Club and has never been changed since 1927. So our centennial national specialty is next year, and that's going to be really, really special. But it's pretty vague, and that actually makes it pretty hard for judges to grasp just judging this breed because we don't like mention real specifics in there. But the reason for that is because Salukis do encompass such a wide variety of dogs, because you had dogs like desert dogs from Egypt that were being imported, and then you had dogs that were considered like the mountain type of Saluki that had the heavier feathering as well that were coming in, that we have like a really wide variety in what a Saluki looks like. So it's about half a page. So anyone who's wanting a Saluki, just give that a read. It'll take you about 5 minutes maybe if you're a slow reader.
I know that a lot of other hounds too appear to be very thin, like to the point where people think that they're malnourished. Can you just speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, I think that happens most often when they are young dogs, because with a lot of Salukis, they don't really put on weight until they're about 3 years old. And I think it's because they are like incredibly active when they're young dogs. Like if you have more than one, especially, they just like run and run and run for like a couple hours and they burn off all the calories they eat. They also don't have like a ton of food drive, I think, compared to other breeds. I find that I have to switch treats a lot, and sometimes I get tired of the food that they're eating. And like every single time I have a litter, I have to talk through new people to Salukis as far as like, why isn't my dog eating? Because it's just something that a lot of Salukis go through. You might get lucky and get one that like eats really well. Like Folklore was always a wonderful eater. I really hope she passes that on, but I don't think that any of her litter mates were.
Gotcha.
So I do have, like, some tricks that I do here to like,
Yeah.
like I put them in crates at night with their leftover food, and that works somewhat. And you do little things to try to help it. But if you're gonna get a Saluki and take it out in public, like you do kind of have to be prepared for that to potentially happen. I have had people like harass me on the street for dogs that were too skinny and whatever else. But
yeah,
it is what it is. I think I get it less than I used to.
yeah. I mean, even me, like I'm a dog person, and I've seen like Afghan. I saw there's this one groomer who has an Afghan, and I mean the hip bones are just like protruding so much. I'm like, I know that they're supposed to be like they stay thin, but like that seems like way too
They're
thin.
actually really specific because they actually mention the hip bones. So their hip bones usually stick out more than Salukis even. I think it's because they've got like a slightly steeper croup than the Saluki.
Okay. They are a deep-chested breed. Are they susceptible to bloat?
I think any dog breed is like has the potential to get bloat, just like any dog breed has the potential to get cancer. But Salukis are not especially prone to it. In the survey that I did, I think that there were only 2 or 3 cases of bloat, and this is out of almost 300 dogs. So you're talking like less than 1%, essentially. So it's not something that I would like worry about or like go out of my way to like, I don't know more about than I do some other like entropion or whatever.
Right.
This is probably not going to happen.
Right.
The same is actually true for hip dysplasia. It's extremely rare in the breed.
Oh.
I question about it all the time.
Yeah. That's awesome. Couple less things to worry about.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's all soft tissue stuff for us, so you have to like keep testing the heart over time.
You do confirmation and rally, I saw.
Rally, I just do rally classes. We're
For
not
fun.
Rally.
Okay.
I would say that confirmation and coursing are what I do seriously, because I think that those are the 2 things that really prove the breed. Rally is for fun. It doesn't show me anything about what a Saluki is. If I lived closer to open field coursing, I would do that. I have had some offspring actually go off and be successful in open field coursing, which is really amazing when you're breeding East Coast like show dogs, essentially. I had actually wanted to go to open field last year, but the hares were not in a good state. They kept having issues like finding enough hares. And then one of my girls came in season, so we didn't get to go.
Yeah.
This year, I really want to go and experience it. I think it's different. It's going to be a learning experience for me to go and see that. And even if my girls come in this season this time, I might just fly out and watch it. Honestly.
Do you think that stuff is important
for proving your breeding stock?
Yeah.
I think it's difficult to justify like the requirement to do open field because the availability of it is so minimal. Like you can only really open field in New Mexico, Arizona, California. That's basically it. And there is some in Wyoming as well. There's not a lot that's out there. And so, like, what do you say to breeders in Europe? You can't. I would say that lure coursing can be insightful. It's not the same thing as coursing your dog on open game because they have to run so much further. It's more of a game. I don't think that necessarily the dog has to have a field championship to prove itself as a Saluki, because what I found is that Salukis are one of the most interfering breeds of dog. But almost all of the dogs who like interfere on plastic will actually run down game. Like this happened to the offspring of mine that course out west. They're actually very successful out there. They don't run in plastic together because it's plastic. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
They just don't see it the same way.
Yeah. They're not stupid.
Yeah. So I think that with the Saluki, you can actually find out a lot about conformation. We breed for really moderate structure, like as a breed as a whole. If you find Salukis that are not moderate, just avoid them because that's not what a Saluki is. A Saluki is supposed to be very moderate. And like,
what do you mean by moderate?
Like not too much angulation, like they're not a trotting breed. They're supposed to be like light boned, like a racy breed with like, you know, the rear's just kind of in its place or drop down exactly in its place. But what I've found is that actually our top open field coursing dog of all time, Hammer was his name. It was not my dog, I'm talking about another dog that doesn't belong to me now. His mother, I believe, is an import. Let me actually look this up so I'm not like making up lies right here. So his mother was an import, and he was the only dog to get a CC 2000, like better than any breed of dog. But his mother was not bred from anyone that had any open field coursing because the mother came from Norway. So I think that conformation can show you a lot in a Saluki. I think that might be something that is not the case in other types of dogs, but I think in sighthounds it can be indicative of how they will run.
In your contract, do you sell with breeding rights?
Everything that is that goes in a show home, and I actually sell a lot of dogs on show home contracts. It goes on a co-ownership. I have an extremely extensive contract. A lot of people don't like it. I've had people back out because of it. But everything's a co-ownership. I do have a health guarantee of up to 5 years for anything that's hereditary, essentially. And as far as like breeding rights, I read verbatim from my contract. The puppy or dog is over 2 years old. The puppy or dog has completed appropriate health testing. The puppy or dog has had a heart echocardiogram with normal results through OFA or echocardiogram and determined clear phenotypical abnormalities through a board-certified cardiologist at over the age of 2 years, so I won't accept a 1 year. The puppy must be tested for SSADHD or NCL8 if not genetically cleared by parentage. And the puppy has to earn a conformation championship issued by the breeder's nationally recognized primary kennel club, so AKC, or Canadian Kennel Club, or FCI member kennel club. So that means no UKC, no other venue. Or it has to have a field championship or open field coursing championship. And so there has to be a nationally recognized field or lure coursing organization. I do accept ASFA for this. I do accept our 2 open field coursing organizations for this. And I have titles earned through non-primary registries or international title venues do not satisfy this requirement unless the seller gives written permission, approval, and seller's reasonable discretion. So like if I thought it was good enough, but that hasn't been the case. It's just, you know, I do require championships and I require health testing. Specifically heart testing is the most important thing.
How come not UKC?
It's not valuable in a Saluki.
Gotcha.
I finished Trinket in 5 shows with like 4 group 1s.
Okay. Yeah.
It's, yeah, like I get it for poodles. It doesn't matter in Saluki.
Gotcha. So how much do you charge for your puppies?
I try to stay with what is the average price that my breeder peers are charging. And at this time, I think we're probably at anywhere between $2,500 and $3,000. I haven't named a price for my litter coming up. If I need a C-section, it might be on the higher end, but I don't think so. They normally naturally whelp. But she only had the singleton prior, so I don't really know.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see. My last litter was $2,500.
Okay. Obviously, you do co-owns. What are your thoughts on guardian homes?
Is that like where the owner retains like everything from?
Yeah, so basically like guardian homes are like they're a big like doodle thing where somebody gets a puppy, usually they give them the puppy for free and they just let them like live there, take care of all their vet costs and everything like that, and then when it's time for the puppy to be bred, they come back to the breeder and breed them and then whelp them and then they get their dog back afterwards. But
Yeah. So the thing is that I really don't breed that much to
yeah,
like have to do that. I
yeah,
do have a clause in my contract that gives me the right to collect a dog twice, I think. And I do have the right to a litter back on a bitch. I have not taken that yet. I just have it in there just in case, something happened to where my dog didn't work out, that I would have that option. But it's not something that I'm like, I have not, like I said, I haven't taken anyone back yet.
yeah, yeah.
Bad.
Do you allow people to pick which puppy that they get?
Not really. Sometimes, like I had a video that was actually fairly controversial where I mentioned that a buyer had a choice between two puppies. And so that might happen where they have a choice between two fairly equal puppies. I think they were both quality puppies, fairly consistent. One was a little bit more bold, a little bit stouter. The other one was a little bit more refined. And so they had a choice between those two, but not between like a whole litter. And that was at 8 weeks and they saw the puppy. That wasn't like, pick your puppy when it opens its eyes.
Yeah. Would you sell litter mates together?
So this is interesting because I feel like in sighthounds, this is not that uncommon. I have not sold litter mates together. The breeder of the first male dog I used, Najib, actually offered me a litter mate at the same time. It's not that uncommon. If it's someone that is established in the community, um, I could see doing that. There are reasons not to as well because if something happens, you're taking back two puppies, and that's difficult.
Mm-hmm.
If it was someone who was established, I could see that being a possibility. I wouldn't just sell it to someone who wanted two pets.
Right.
I wouldn't sell it to someone who wasn't established and didn't have the breed before that point. I would only be open to it to someone who had at least as much experience as me, or more. But it's I don't even think I could sell two puppies to one person. I have too many people who want my puppies. It would be very fair.
Yeah. Can you think off the top of your head of any difficult choices that you've had to make as a breeder that others might not agree with? I
I
guess.
think that it's difficult to wash any dog. My first dog, Amir, sometimes I regret not collecting this dog because he lived to be 14 and a half without a single murmur. Like he was healthy until the end. We had like a slow goodbye because he just had arthritis. Um, I did not breed him, even though he was a best in field winner, even though he was a champion, even though he passed his heart test, even though he had a thyroid test. There was no DNA test at that time, because he wasn't good enough. He didn't meet the bar, and he didn't really have a temperament that I wanted to perpetuate. He was like a little too guardy, like human aggressive-ish in a way. Like one of his brothers was euthanized for resource guarding aggression, and he had that too.
Mhm.
But I think that was a difficult decision for me, especially since it was my first dog, and I spent so long proving him. I took 3.5 years to finish him. In a lot of ways, he was an amazing dog, but he wasn't a dog that I wanted to perpetuate.
Gotcha. And you think that like since there's such a rare breed that other people may have just like swept those issues under the rug and like bred him anyway, or
I think that anytime that you have a rare breed, there are probably exceptions being made in some of the time. And I don't think that this is really a black and white thing. There might be someone that would have bred them, and I don't necessarily think that I would call them a backyard breeder for that or anything like that. I think that you have to decide as a breeder, like where do you draw the line? Like what do you want to represent with your kennel? Um, but yeah, because it's rare, and because there's not a lot of diversity out there, and because it's declining breed, I do think other people might have. Now, whether or not they shared that information with someone that was inquiring, I don't know. I think as long as you are open about anything that is like potentially not good. None of my dogs are perfect. As long as you're open about whatever it is that's not perfect, I think that's acceptable. Depending like on what it is. If you
right.
are, and I think my line has always been like, am I willing to would I want to sell a puppy like this? Would I be happy with a puppy who is like this sold to someone else? And with a dog who had severe resource guarding, and he never bit me or anything like that, I didn't think I would be happy perpetuating that issue.
Hmm.
It's just like when I washed Faza, because she had severe allergies. I wouldn't have been happy if I had a puppy home who contacted me and told me about those issues if I had perpetuated him. And Fozzie
Yeah.
has the best temperament in the world. She's amazing. And we really hate that that was what it was.
Yeah. Yeah, you're the one that's got to live with it for the rest of those puppies' lives. So,
Yeah, for sure. And you have to be willing to be able to take dogs back. You have to,
yeah. Yeah. If someone is looking for an ethical breeder, what do you recommend?
I would recommend going to the parent club specifically. I think the parent club is always your best source of information as far as like what health tests you should be looking for. It's also going to be the best reference of breeders that you can find. Now, I do think beyond that point, like you should look up what the health testing is, why they're doing the health testing, and still ask the breeders in the parent club if they're doing the health testing, because I promise you they aren't all doing it. I have seen many breeders who have bred much longer than I have, who have very illustrious programs with lots of accomplishments, who don't necessarily heart test their dogs. And I think that's kind of a shame because heart testing has been established in the breed. But I do think your parent club's going to be the best resource there.
Okay. Make sure you guys go follow Hayat Salukis. I was on your page last night. Like, I was in a rabbit hole. Your videos are so good and like so educational and informative. And I was like literally talking myself into becoming a Saluki breeder.
We need more. We really do, because there's just like it's really sad. It's been in decline. I think there's about half that were born than when I started, which really wasn't that long ago.
Yeah.
As far as AKC coursing or ASPA, I have coursed in both. I will say that I prioritize AKC field championship because it's harder, and because dogs generally tend to run less good over time. And so I'm actually hoping to take Trinket, who is my first dual champion, maybe this year. I don't know, to do or to pursue ASPA. I think that they're both valuable.
Are you able to show us the dogs?
I can maybe bring someone up here in our house. We actually don't have that many dogs, but here I can hold someone up. Now they're sniffing the room because they're never allowed in here.
Where are we? We're in the Forbidden Castle. Aww.
This is Trinket.
Trinket! Trinket! Hi, Trinket!
I think she's the baby, but she's 2.5. She is a dual champion. And she finished at our national specialty last year over about 40 other bitches, which is really cool. Under a breeder judge. She actually finished with 4 specialty majors. And she is the second generation of my program.
Congratulations, Trinket. Jen! That's your favorite, right?
I love Jen. Jen's perfect.
Yeah.
He's the boy.
Jen's always who you send in pictures of.
Yeah, well, he's just so handsome, and I don't know, he always poses. He's the dog who loves the show the most, so if you see me out at a show, like, it's probably going to be him, because I usually take the party girls to specialties, and he goes to all breed. I feel like the party girls just don't do as well in all breed shows. Hey, this is Folklore. She is the one who broke herself a little bit.
Oh, she's so pretty.
She's a beautiful girl.
Oh, I love the ears. Do you ever, like, braid their hair?
I have braided. It does kind of fall out, but there have been some times when I've like had a dog sitter and I braided the hair so it didn't like mat up.
Yeah.
So that's fun. She's a real sweet girl.
Yes. Hi, Folklore. Oh, she loves the scratchy.
I'm hoping to start PT with her soon and then get her like 100%.
Yeah.
They're all sweet. They get along pretty well in a pack. We don't have like traditional kennels or anything like that. They all live in house.
Nice. Somebody asked, what is their biddability level? The typical hound type? What does that mean?
I would say that they're probably more akin to most primitive breeds than sighthounds. They are not terribly biddable dogs. They're not easy to train. They're exactly 0 obedience champions. There are no obedience champions in Salukis. There are no rally champions in Salukis. There are, I think we've gotten up to 3 or 4 mocks in the history of the breed. It's just not a breed I would go for, like, if you want extensive biddability.
And what are their grooming needs?
Not much. They come in smooth, as you know, and those dogs just need baths every so often and nails done. They really aren't that difficult, though. There are some that if you're going to show them, you might need to strip the coat. Most of my guys are fairly easy. This is just as she is. Like, she got a bath last week, I think. I think if you don't wash the ears on a fairly regular basis, you will have to take out some knots. But it's a silky texture in there, so it's really not too difficult to work with.
What are the different colors called?
Oh, there's a lot. Yeah, so there are Salukis that are good at obedience and rally, but it still holds true. There's no Aches or Ratch. Colors, they come in anything from solid white to solid black. It's like and anything in between. So the dogs I have here are primarily fawn parties, the two with white, and then fawn. But if you look on my website, I have two black and silver dogs, and that is Faza and Jazz. And Yafa is a grizzle. And she's a really dark grizzle. It's pretty. Melody is like a slightly lighter grizzle. But they come in like just about any color you want. The solid black dogs are actually pretty exclusively like Persian descent dogs.
Do they struggle with spay coat?
They do get funky coats if they're feathered sometimes, and this does happen to neutered dogs as well. Like they get fuzzy, like it basically just like grows out, all the body coat will grow out, and it varies on the dog on how bad that will get. You can pretty much just clip it though, if it's an issue. Like clip the body coat. That's what we've done to some of them. We just clip them occasionally. I don't think it's like a really difficult thing to work with. It's not as aesthetically pleasing as a dog that's intact. But you know, if you have a male Saluki, I actually don't require my males to be neutered because of the coat. I assume that when I'm trusting someone with a whole dog, that I'm trusting them with the whole dog. So like that's fine. With females, I'd say spay them by the time they're 6 if they're a pet.
Okay. We can do the poll. Brindle and Black was controversial in the Saluki community at one time. Is that still the case?
I think that Brindle is still pretty controversial. I think Black is less controversial. There are some pedigrees associated with Brindle that I would say are kind of questionable personally. However, we have had Brindles who have won the national specialty before. So that's not the case under every judge. It is an undesirable color in the United Kingdom, and it's acceptable in Australia. So there's a little bit of difference, and it's just not mentioned in the United States standard at all. They all, like Brindle and Solid Black, both have to have imported pedigrees though, and there's always going to be this question when you have an open stud book of what is it actually purebred, right? And so that's basically the case, is they're coming from these imported pedigrees, and whether or not they're truly purebred is going to depend on the breeder that is thinking yes or no with that, and then you have to decide what matters more. Is it genetic diversity or is it a color?
Gotcha. Do Salukis have recall? Can they be let off lead, or will they just nope and leave?
The ones that I let off lead, I do with e-collars specifically, which I know is controversial, but if I have a puppy owner that's going to do that or do open field coursing, they almost exclusively wear e-collars, because the recall in a Saluki is probably one of the worst breeds without it. They can be trained. I'm not going to say they can't, but it's like an insurance policy.
No, I wasn't making a face at the e-collar. I use an e-collar too. I was making a face at, you're the first person to get 100% yes ethical breeder. So congratulations. So they are like a greyhound, puppy girl said.
I think greyhounds are a little bit more friendly. Like I'm
Yeah.
in Salukis, but I mean, there's some similarities. They like to run. These guys are smaller.
Is there anything else that you wanted to add about Salukis before we go?
If you are really interested in Salukis, go to salukiclub.org and check out the resources there. If you're anywhere near Missouri, our national specialty is held there every June. It's the first week of June, and it is like a week-long event where more Salukis gather there than anywhere else in the country. We have an entry of about 300, which is crazy. So if you're anywhere in the vicinity, like go there. We have like pretty good regional specialties as well. Go and meet them if you're interested, because they are maybe different than what you expect, but they're such a fun breed, and I'm so happy to share my life with them.
A friendly Saluki is a stolen Saluki, Wildwater said.
Yeah, that's true, actually. I think that is generally why they are more aloof, although the show ring has made them a little bit friendlier over time, like as a whole.
He asked, how do you feel about Eurohounds since they use Salukis? What's Eurohounds?
I'm not too familiar with Eurohounds. I don't really support the mixing of breeds. No, I mean, it's like, I get it, and I'm not going to like fight the fight on people health testing and doing that stuff, but it's just not really my thing, and I would not personally lend my dog for that.
Yeah.
Time to say goodbye. Our day was great, now it's time to go home. It's getting late.